It's the mycelium of underground sounds. If you thought you were lost, well, now you're found. And you find yourself in the greenhouse on the Polynation broadcast, where there is no offenses, only glass walls. You know, all the better to see through with. Here's Snowing Throw. I wish I was throwing snow. It's really friggin' hot. Welcome to the greenhouse, folks. Polynation broadcast is live on the air. GroundZeroPlus.com Polynation broadcast. My name's Polly. Some people call me Polly G. Hang on a second, Asif Spectre. Probably saying his name wrong. Anyways. Welcome to Sunday. I gotta tell you a little story about how I got today's topic. And it goes something like this. I had nothing to talk about today. No topics, no saved articles from the week before. It's the start of a new week. Had nothing lined up. I was very uninspired, you could say. And then I got inspired. And I was like, well, where does inspiration come from? I mean, 1 minute it wasn't there. And then the next minute it was. And so the show today is inspired by inspiration itself. Whether there's a lack of it or an abundance. It seems to kind of just show up whenever it wants. And it can be found in almost anything, depending on your perspective. So it's a very strange thing. So we're going to look at the etymology. We're going to look at the word, break it apart into its pieces, figure out what it really means. Because another question I asked myself was, inspiration and motivation, are they the same thing? Like, I'm sure everybody's motivated to go to work because you got to pay your bills, but you're not inspired to go to work. But inspiration can provide motivation, and motivation can also provide inspiration for other people. So there's got to be a tie in there somewhere. Excuse the background noise, folks. I have to have all of my windows open today because I have no air conditioning, and I'm not complaining. If anybody in Africa is listening, trust me, I'm not complaining. Or India. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's really hot, and so I need to keep my windows open. You'll probably hear some traffic, maybe some crime, maybe some children laughing. Who knows? You generally hear all kinds of things when you live where I do, which is in Canada, Toronto. That's as specific as I'm going to get. I don't feel inspired to tell you my exact address. And then there's this other thing. People call it the Muse. Is that what provides inspiration? Or does inspiration feed the Muse? It's very... I don't think I've ever thought about this, which is very strange because I consider myself a very creative person. And sometimes I dabble in poetry. But what happens is I won't write anything for maybe 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6 months. And then there'll be a week that comes up and all of a sudden I'm inspired to write all kinds of stuff. And then it goes away as quickly as it came. So I don't really feel like I'm in control of it, if that makes sense. Which is why I'm curious. Where does inspiration come from? I don't know yet, but hopefully we can figure that out today. Talk about a broad topic. But I think it's going to be interesting. And it's something I've always wanted to... I want to figure this out. Because I'm sure many of you listening out there have been inspired. And it seems random. What's doing that? Who knows? I think there's a bunch of possibilities, and we're going to explore all of them. But we're also going to listen to some kick-ass tunes, because that's what we do in the greenhouse. All plant-friendly music. Here's Close Your Eyes by Asif Spectre. On the Polynation Broadcast, groundzeroplus.com.
Nothing left behind. popcorn, waiting for you to cool. But you were off with that donut, laughing behind my back. Then I read a bitter review about a band you're in. To be honest, I got Schadenfreude.
Déjà vu en hotel foyer. Ignore everything you said. Backflips on MDMA.
An aisle seat on a cheap airline, trying to get to Lithuania. I think of you to calm my nerves. A busy stage will solve my pain, and you'll be another ghost that never knew how much I thought about. But I still got Schadenfreude.
alles treibt mich zu ihm hin. Die Gesänge werden schweigen. Wo ich nicht war, komm ich nicht hin. Ich bin an diesem Ort so müde. Doch alles treibt mich zu ihm hin. Die Gesänge werden schweigen. Wo ich nicht war, komm ich nicht hin. Zerstreuen. Schlafen versuche ich mein Glück. Früher war auch nicht alles anders. Erinnerung ist just alles treibt mich zu ihm hin. Die Gesänge werden schweigen. Wo ich nicht war, komm ich nicht hin. Ich bin an diesem Ort so müde, doch alles treibt mich zu ihm hin. Die Gesänge werden schweigen. Wo ich nicht war, komm ich nicht hin.
This is the Polynation broadcast. And everyone in the greenhouse with those gifts, you're making me giggle. It's hilarious. So we're talking about inspiration here. What is the cause of being inspired? If you're just tuning in, this is the Polynation broadcast. And we're live every weekend, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on groundzeroplus.com. I hope you're inspired to listen to the whole show. If you're new, that is. So, inspiration clearly comes from the word inspire. And you could break that word into two as well, I think. Because aspire is also something. But we'll save that for later. For now, let's just focus on the word inspire. So, apparently appears in the mid-14th century. Inspiren. To fill the mind, heart, etc. with grace. Also, to prompt or induce someone to do something. It comes from Latin, which is even older. Inspirare, which is blow into, breathe upon. Figuratively, it means, excite, inflame. So yeah, there's breath involved here. It's weird because I was just talking about how it almost seems like a cyclical, like it goes away for a long period of time and then it comes back, but it's only for a short while. It's like a steep wave, if you can imagine that. So it also has a general sense of influence or animate with an idea or purpose. So you can see why I was saying that there's a similarity between inspire and motivate. But I guess motivation has specific, obvious reasons that are apparent to the one being motivated. Whereas it seems like inspiration can just come out of nowhere. So, where does it come from? I had this idea that all ideas everything that's ever been thought of has already been thought of before because of this saying they have in alchemy. It's the first rule of alchemy, which is all is mind, and we exist in that one all mind. So all the ideas, it also ties in with that cliche saying there's nothing new under the sun. Well, that's literally true. If what I'm saying is true, and I don't know if it is, but I like to believe this. That is, all of the inspirational ideas that have ever been sort of, I guess, tuned into throughout human history, they were already there. Everything that's ever possible and everything that's ever existed all exists at the same time in this one sort of field, I guess you could say, which alchemy refers to as the all, the mind. So what happens in people that get inspired, I guess, is what I'm asking. And hopefully I'll answer that question at some point, because I'm not even sure I'm asking the right questions here when it comes to inspiration. I mean, it's a fairly universal thing, and it's probably different for everybody. Like, somebody who's really passionate about food is going to be inspired by a recipe, whereas somebody who can't cook their way out of a paper bag would probably not be inspired by the same recipe. But they might be good at building a deck, and they would be inspired by, something completely different. Perhaps a construction site that they drove past and they saw something and they're like, whoa, I could do it that way, and it would inspire them to, where does this thing come from? So, my top theory so far is that all of the inspirations already exist. It takes certain kinds of people to tune into them. Like, we're all sort of individual antennas, like on an AM radio. But obviously multiply that by the billions, and you can just keep cutting frequencies in half, so that is possible mathematically. We could all have this one unique frequency that only tunes in to certain inspirations. Like, as a musician, I get inspired by music. And I also get inspired by poetry because there's a lot of lyrics in music, I suppose. And I also get inspired by just things that I can see with my eyes because I love photography. I get inspired by a lot of things, actually. But some people only get inspired by certain things because it's the only thing that they're inspired by. Because it's maybe the only thing they think they're good at, or they just gravitate towards that one thing. They're tuned into that one inspirational frequency that perhaps nobody else is capable of doing. Like a fingerprint, that's how individual I'm suggesting it might be. So where do we go from here? Well, I found this new artist, musician, and his name is, I'm going to say Felm, and there's a silent B in between the L and the M. And let me just read you this is his bio that he got to publish. I mean, and it's one sentence. But he doesn't use the word inspired. I'll read it to you. This guy, Felm, is a Dutch instrumentalist and composer enthused by nature and cyclical movements. Now, maybe there's something lost in translation here, but I think you could easily substitute the word enthused for inspired. Because inspiration has an influence. And it doesn't influence everybody the same way, and not everybody gets the same inspirations. So it's a very curious thing, but it's something that I don't think we've given enough attention to. I'm hoping to inspire people today to think outside the box. Stop your doom scrolling. Make something happen. Build something, paint something, draw something, cook something, plant something. Or make your car really loud like that. And then you can figure out where I live. If you're listening in your car, you can just keep driving past apartment buildings, and eventually you'll hear it. You'll know that was your car. So I'm gonna play 4 songs by this dude, Felm, okay? And he's inspired by nature and cyclical things that happen in nature. And it's really cool. They're short songs. I'll probably only take about maybe 15 minutes of your time here. And then we'll get back to, because this inspiration caused this music. Like, I mean, if this guy didn't exist, the music wouldn't exist. But the inspiration was already there. It just took this guy to exist to get tuned into it. Wait till you hear it. It's not, it's not testing your limits of what music is. It's actually, it kind of makes you think about nature if you listen to it closely. And this is it. The first song's called Beaufort. And this is the Polynation broadcast on groundzeroplus.com. It's Polynation Broadcast. We're live on groundzeroplus.com. I'm Polly G. And we just heard a quadruple shot of Felm, whose music was enthused, in quotations, by the cyclical things that happen in nature. And clearly he uses nature sounds in his music too, but one thing to note, every single one of those tunes, all of the instruments were acoustic ones. There was no electronic music in that at all. And it was inspired by nature. So, as I was listening to this, because the main question here is, where does inspiration come from? And I've already suggested that it exists, all the inspirations exist simultaneously in this one field, that certain people can only access certain points of that field for their inspiration. This guy, he's the nature dude, and he makes music. I had a theory that a lot of the best classical music from, like people like Mozart and Beethoven literally stole riffs from birds. And that's nature. So, and I was asking myself, well, where does inspiration, when inspirational things happen, what are they usually? They're usually things that are made by man. Or human, I should say. Whatever. I'm not woke, okay? Deal with it. Inspiration can come from art, right? All the things that inspire people to do things can also cause inspiration, like art, music, architecture. And when I got to, and there's many more, but when I got to architecture, that's when I was like, okay, if you look at most of the really impressive cathedrals, and I learned this from Randall Carlson, they took a lot of geometry from nature. So in a way, they were inspired the same way that this guy who wrote those 4 songs was inspired by nature, but they used it in a different medium. The same inspiration came from nature, but instead of making music, they built these magnificent, they're like they're geometrically perfect. There's all kinds of golden ratio stuff happening in them. And what people don't think about is when they build something like that, there's a piece of wood that's holding everything in place first. They have to build it like an exoskeleton made of wood first, which is why the carpenters were so important. Because without carpenters, you wouldn't be able to build a concrete dome with a hole in the top of it. You need to have supports there to hold it up first so it can set, right? Like, that makes sense. So carpenters are also inspired by nature's geometry. Some might call that sacred geometry. So where am I going with this? Well, it seems to me that sacred geometry and inspiration are intrinsically intertwined. So that would mean that inspiration technically existed before humans. Which doesn't make any sense to me, because I think you need humans to be able to extract inspiration. You don't see animals inspired to do something, right? You can train an animal, but that's motivation, that's not inspiration. And you don't see plants inspired to do something. Everything that they do is through motivation, and it's a reaction to their surroundings. Inspiration seems to come from somewhere else that doesn't have to be your surroundings. Think about when the first person figured out how they could make an arch. They'd probably seen it a million times in nature. And then one day they just woke up and went, wait a minute, the keystone. We could just build wooden structures to hold up two halves of an arch, and when we put the keystone in, it'll hold itself up. I mean, he probably woke up at 3:30 in the morning and wrote that down. It seems like inspiration can be like almost like a sniper. It'll hit you when you least expect it, and it's usually a headshot that changes the way you think about things. I mean, think about all of the great inventions that people thought were... I mean, even Nikola Tesla. He keeps speaking about the magic of 3, 6, and 9. Well, that's because it's found in nature everywhere. It's found in the solar system. It's found in the galaxy. It's found in the universe. So, I guess I'm questioning the randomness of inspiration. But a key piece that I think I've figured out here is that without human consciousness, I don't think inspiration would have a chance at surviving. It's almost like how, well, if you listened to the show yesterday, I had a guest on, Luna from Australia, longtime friend, been friends for probably 8 years now. And we were talking about how I can't remember what I was going to say. I just totally lost my train of thought because I'm reading the chat. What was I saying? Something about inspiration. Talking about... yeah, I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Here's another thing that humans create that provides a lot of inspiration. And that's words. Words seem to be able to have this level of inspiration that is way above what you'd consider, like, you know, it's more powerful than a song, I think, because, well, a song has words in it. It's more powerful than a photograph. Think about how many speeches there have been that people play over and over again. They're good speeches, that's why. And those words have power. They make people think, they inspire people. So I did line up some clips that we'll get into. I'll just chuck them in there, like randomly season the set list with inspiring words. And I'll tell you who it is later. Maybe you'll be able to guess who it is. He's got a pretty big YouTube channel. So what else is inspiring? What do you guys get inspired by in the greenhouse? Do you guys ever notice that inspiration can just like hit you out of nowhere when you least expect it? Anyways, if you're wondering who I'm talking to and you're just listening, I'm talking to the greenhouse, which is the chat room here over at groundzeroplus.com. If you become a member, you get access to the chat room, and that's what I call the greenhouse. It's where all the cool people hang out. It's where all the cool kids are. And literally, when I say cool kids, I mean we all have a childish aspect to us that prohibits us from getting offended or argumentative or even serious sometimes. We all just have a laugh in there, so come on down. Because the Polynation broadcast is 110% listener supported. And without the listener, the support wouldn't be there. So spread the word. Spread the word. The greenhouse needs fertilizer, if you know what I'm saying. We do have more music. Lots more music. I think we should get back into some of it right now. I picked this song because it's called Morph and Mindy. Clearly it was inspired by that show Mork and Mindy. You'd think, right? So many things inspire music. It's great. I love how some things are sort of, they're more open to inspiration and some things aren't. Like something like physics and science don't seem to be as open to inspiration as the more creative aspects of humanity. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's just what I've observed so far. Anyways, here's Morph and Mindy by Blockhead. Polynation Broadcast, groundzeroplus.com.
Thank you.
The song's called Voyager by Paul Epworth. Polynation Broadcast, groundzeroplus.com. You should probably turn this one up a little bit. What do you suppose inspired people to get on a boat and sail across the ocean? Seems kind of ridiculous. I think it was probably more motivation than inspiration when it comes to things like that. The reason I say that is because I'm pretty sure Columbus got paid a bunch of money. You know what I'm saying? It was always the prospect of profit, pillage. Well, if you're the Vikings, you just take whatever you want. What inspired them? See, here's what I've come to the conclusion of. Inspiration exists in nature already, but it takes either a human consciousness or some kind of an intelligent form of life similar to ours to extract it. And I remembered what me and Luna were talking about yesterday, which is that humans are supposed to be like the caretakers or custodians or stewards of nature. How do we know how to do that? Well, we know how to do that because nature tells us to, and we were originally, before all the technology and stuff, inspired to do so. Many shamans will tell you the plants told them. That's a form of inspiration to me. Now here we're going to get a little bit deeper. And that's when we combine inspiration with religion. Remember how I was saying that words are the most powerful form of inspiration? Well, if you read the Bible and you believe it, then God spoke us into existence. He spoke the universe into existence. His word made everything. At least that's how I interpret it. Does God have an inspiration? What inspired God to do this, if that's true? That is the question that I don't think anyone's going to be able to answer. But I like pondering questions that I can't answer. I like talking about possible answers. I'm not going to argue with anyone because I don't know. But what was God's inspiration? He must have got the idea from somewhere. So did inspiration exist in this field before even God? That's what I'm getting at here. And funny enough, a member of the greenhouse was mentioning earlier that inspiration is love and is God. And I can't really argue with that. I think it explains a part of it. And it explains that part very accurately because you can clearly look and find examples of things that are inspired by love and by God or religion or a belief in something beyond what you're capable of perceiving. It's where these inspirations come from. Something beyond what you can conceive. So many religious people think that these are their gifts, or sometimes they believe that they're instructions. But either way, there's a high level of inspiration. It's almost like that motivation wouldn't exist without the inspiration that seems to come from somewhere that we can't perceive. So now my question is, well, do things in nature perceive it, but they're just not capable of extracting it and using it? Maybe that's kind of a practical way of looking at it. But what it does is it uses us to extract that inspiration for it. Because we're custodians of nature. We're the ones that execute what nature can't do by itself, and nature tries to make us do those things through inspiration. This is where I'm at so far. I hope this is making sense. It's making sense to me, but that doesn't always translate, and I get that. If you have any questions and you're just listening and you really are dying to ask me what I'm talking about, get on over to groundzeroplus.com, become a member, get in the chat room, because I don't have a phone line yet. But eventually, hopefully, I hope to get a phone line so that people can call in case I'm not making any sense, and somebody maybe, call in, correct the course, or provide another insight that I haven't considered. I love insights. Insights, inspiration. Why do all the cool words start with in? Well, maybe insurrection isn't a cool word, but it seems like we're heading for one. Off topic. And so to get us back on topic, you know what? My plants are digging the music today. Zoe's literally sprawled out on the floor just trying to keep cool. And hopefully these tunes will chill you out as well. Here's Until the End of the World by John Tejada on the Polynation broadcast, groundzeroplus.com. Hey, if you say the end of the world to a flat earther, do they always reply which end? Honest question, I'm asking for a friend.
when you read about the Antichrist and his helper, in Revelations, you read about how they're able to do all these like miracles, essentially. Like basically, it's the whole world's looking at them, being like, "Whoa, they couldn't possibly do the things they're doing if they weren't some sort of extraterrestrial being, right?" And so, I guess the ultimate thing that I bet people are trying to figure out if it would ever be possible would be to have the ability to take a human body and replace a human's consciousness with AI.
Yeah.
Like to be able to implant AI into the brain of a child and replace their consciousness to be able to control everything about their personality, their actions, and everything completely.
Or,
As Jesus answers all...
hang on a minute. That was Chad Wright talking about AI. And I was going to say, or they use AI to inhibit inspiration. Inhibit and or control / guide it. Nudge it in certain directions. And in the greenhouse, again, inspired by the comments in the greenhouse. Probably one of the most inspirational people that's ever been written or spoken about. I don't know, maybe Muhammad's a close second, but it would be Jesus to me. That dude's inspired so many people. And usually it wasn't just his words, although his words were very powerful. Clearly, because they were written down in a book that's probably one of the oldest books on the planet that we know of. But his actions also inspired people, or at least words describing his actions. I mean, at the time, I'm sure his actions literally inspired people. But I wonder how many people got, like, the wrong impression. They tried to, like, walk on water and ended up drowning. That could get ugly. So, I guess when you look at it that way, there's some inspiration that maybe isn't really that great. What inspires a school shooter? You know what I mean? Like, there's clearly, they must have some sort of inspiration for it. I know, people are going to say, it's Marilyn Manson. It's heavy metal music. It's video games. I don't know. I think that this field of inspiration has, like, opposites, like everything else in the universe does. There's good inspiration and there's evil inspiration. And some people, I guess, don't have the choice of choosing good or evil. They just get shoved into the evil. And they're inspired that way. Whether it's their environment that does that, their upbringing, their culture. Maybe they grew up in a cult. Culture. Yeah, etymology, folks. Look at words more closely. I guarantee you'll learn a lot more about what they mean. So for the rest of the show, okay, I think we've established one thing, and that is inspiration is there whether you want to see it or not. You're going to tune into it or you're not. And it's there whether we're here or not. We're needed to extract it, but it's still there. It's just not being harvested or extracted or represented or created. Because if we are created in the image of our Creator, we should be able to create the same stuff He did. Or it did. Whatever. I don't think God cares about gender. So I'm going to refer to him as a he. Sorry. And he's got a big freaking white beard and lots of white hair and a big booming voice. Kind of like Randall Carlson, but different tone of voice. More powerful, if you can believe that. So let's fill up the rest of the show with inspiration. Hopefully we can get some inspired people to do what maybe they should have been doing a long time ago. Whatever that is. Maybe you're too humble to try to do it. Well, I got some quotes here. They're supposed to be inspirational quotes. So we're going to go through... This is according to Grok 4, okay? I asked for 10 inspirational quotes. And I own an iPhone. So guess who the first quote came from? I'll give you one guess. And if you don't guess Steve Jobs, then you don't have an iPhone maybe? Cool. He said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. Can't argue with that. Is it inspirational? Well, depends on how you look at it, I guess. If you've seen any documentaries about Steve Jobs, sometimes it didn't seem like he loved what he did, especially the way he treated other people. But most of the things that I do well, it's because I love doing them. And I'm sure that's the same for everybody. It's a kind of a universal thing, which ties it back to inspiration ultimately evolves from love. Love of something. Okay, here's another one from C.S. Lewis. You're never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. Well, if you're dead, you're too old. But other than that, you can't really argue with it. I mean, if you're going to let your physical age prevent you from doing something you love, is it really you that's preventing you from doing it, or is it something else? Some kind of opposite of inspiration that's telling you you're too old. You can't go back to school. You're 53. Some people don't figure out what they want to do or what they're good at until they're in their 50s. I don't know. I agree with this statement. I don't know whether it's inspirational or not. Doesn't make me want to go out and dream a new dream. I like the dreams I have right now. Once those are achieved, then I'll worry about the new dreams. Here's another one from Eleanor Roosevelt. Interesting, though, that my iPhone put Steve Jobs at the top. My iPhone was inspired. Eleanor Roosevelt says, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Again, dreams. Inspiration. There's been a lot of inspirations that happen through dreams. Some of the world's best inventions happened in a dream first. Kind of makes me think that dreams are like a tool of inspiration when, like, you're not paying attention and that the universe, the whole entire universe is trying to get you and coax you into doing something, but you're just not listening. That's when it resorts to dreams. Because when you have a really vivid dream, and it solves a problem you've been thinking about for a long time. I suppose it's similar to meditation. A lot of people say meditate on something before you jump to a conclusion or answer a question you don't know. The answer will present itself, sometimes in the form of inspiration. I gotta say, thinking about this now really makes me appreciate that I'm the kind of person who can get inspired very easily. I can't imagine living the life of somebody who never gets inspired. That would almost be like living a life where no one's ever loved you. Which goes back to the true origin of inspiration, which is love. Or at least that's where we kind of stop. It's right there. We already heard Steve Jobs say, love what you do. Did he really love what he was doing, or did he love the reward? Like, you can't tell me Steve Jobs thought about all of the consequences of people walking around with iPhones. He was looking at the bottom line. What he loved to do was make money. Does that mean it's less inspirational? To some, I suppose. To me, a little bit. But to people who share his perspective, that's inspirational. You just gotta love what you do, even if you hate it. At least that's how I read that. Anyways, got more inspirational quotes that I'll throw in here. And we'll hear more from Chad Wright. I think there's maybe a little bit of influence when it comes to tone of voice and how you present your words. Two people can say the same sentence. One can be inspiring and the other one can't. And I think that Chad Wright has that tone of being... I don't think he's trying to do it either. That's the thing. I think that's what makes some things inspirational from when it comes from another human being. It's the authenticity. You can tell it's not an act. You can tell it's not like scripted. They didn't rehearse what they're saying. They're literally just saying what's on their brain at the time because they're letting the inspiration dictate what they dictate. So think about that for a second. Play some more tunes. We got Earthman by Jesper Ryom. And we got some Luna Lounge coming up. And some more of... It's kind of a bit of a... more of an electronic vibe today. But still chill. Everybody in the greenhouse, what's up? PPP, that means puff puff pass. Somebody open a window, it's getting smoky in here. It's a Polynation broadcast. GroundZeroPlus.com. Be right back.
they allowed their mind to keep thinking too far forward. They allowed their mind to keep focusing on the fact that it was really painful now and that it was probably never going to get any better. And in that moment, they quit. Every single one of them. It's the number one reason that people quit SEAL training, a marriage, a business, I don't care what it is. If you cannot stay present, if you cannot be where your feet are, when that thought creeps into your head, this is hard, I don't want to do this, and there's no way that I can keep doing this for another year, another 2 years, another 3 years. If you don't put your mind in check right there and say, no, negative, what do I need to do in order to take the next step that moves me in the direction of my goal?
Further away.
Stars on her arms are pretty like the colors of the rainbow. You better let it go, but it's something to consider for the future. High across the sky and the horizon, far away across the sea, mixing up a cocktail and a peace pipe. Life belongs to me, let it come to me.
I want to be upfront with you.
Lying on the ground,
Some of you came here because you've seen me on a podcast.
she's afraid.
You've seen me on a YouTube video. You've watched a documentary on Amazon Prime that featured me, this red-bearded man that looks like he can run forever and that nobody else can beat. And you wanted to get to know me maybe, and you wanted me to kind of tell you some secrets and maybe some tactics and techniques and procedures that you can apply in your own life or in your own race tomorrow. Many of you came here with expectations. Did you not? You should have.
Mixing up a cocktail.
You set aside time away from your family and your home, and you came here with expectations for me.
Let it come to me, falling by the wayside.
Well, let me tell you something. I cannot meet your expectations because I am simply a weak and dying man. I cannot meet your expectations. And if something is said here tonight that happens to help you, that happens to motivate you, that happens to inspire you, that happens to meet your expectation, I want you to know it is because the Holy Spirit of my Father is working through me to help you. And it is not me.
I still like to think back to the old days. I still like to think back to the old days. I still like to think back to the old days. It's like back to the old days. I still like to think back to the old days. It's like back to the old days. I just like, as soon as I wake up, I'm like, yeah, everything's good. I just feel good about myself. I used to just like get myself into like trouble and stuff. And there was nothing really I could do what I wanted to do. So I really like the old days. It's like back to the old days. Wanna talk more. The old days. I really like the old days. I still like to think back to the old days. feel like think back to the old days. It's like back to the old days.
It's Polynation Broadcast. We're gonna stop the show
As soon
soon.
as I wake up, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, as soon as he
everything's
woke
good.
up. Yeah, whatever,
I just feel
bud.
good about myself.
If you wake up in the greenhouse, you're doing well.
Myself into, like,
And that's where we are, groundzeroplus.com.
I could do
Come on by,
what I wanted.
say hi. Shout you out in about 15 minutes, slightly less. groundzeroplus.com. Spell check can't be racist, bro. Can it? The inspired mycelium of underground sounds. The Polynation broadcast. We're live. That was Evocation by Sozar, spelt with an X. Wonder what kind of inspiration that song provides. Anywho, it's that time of day, folks. 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time is when I stop the show and shout out the greenhouse over here at groundzeroplus.com. All the people that are loyal listeners, supporters, because without your support, the platform wouldn't exist. And neither would the Polynation broadcast. I mean, it would probably exist, but you would never know it was there. So we're very grateful to be here live on groundzeroplus.com. And what I like to do is stop the show and shout out the greenhouse, which is the chat room for members, groundzeroplus.com. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. In here today, we've got in the greenhouse, this smoky but comfortable greenhouse. Mitch Durbin is in here. Barbani's in here. Brother Mike is in here. Lisa's in here. Dat's in Focus. is in here. Eric is here. Mad Catter is here. Rich Smith is here. Master Matthew is here. And a guest. Welcome, a guest. Please choose your name promptly, a guest. It's not very personal. I mean, pick anything. You're welcome here, a guest. Everybody here is kind of a guest. A guest. Wait, maybe I can guess your name. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to try. It's probably Bob or something. So thank you everybody in the greenhouse for tuning in, as always, every week. Loyal listeners. We're building quite the family here in the greenhouse. If you happen to know anybody that's of like minds, you should probably let them know about the show. You can listen for free, groundzeroplus.com, or TalkStream Live. Click on the Ground Zero Plus icon between 2 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday or Sunday, and you'll hear the Polynation broadcast for free. And if you would like to donate directly to the Polynation Greenhouse, there are links to do so on groundzeroplus.com. Click on the host page, find the Polynation broadcast, click on that, scroll down, you know what I'm talking about. Think of it like a tip jar. Not very inspiring, I know, but here we are. I said I was going to fill the rest of the show with inspirational words. And so here's one from Winston Churchill. Think about Winston Churchill's position. I mean, everything that guy says has to be inspirational, or the whole country's going to give up to the Nazis. So he says, success is not final. Interesting. Failure is not fatal. Well, tell that to the Germans. It is the courage to continue that counts. All right, Mr. Winston. How much have you had to drink? He apparently liked his whiskey. Not saying there's anything wrong with, people that are put in power of some of the most powerful countries in the world. If they have a little bit of a drinking problem, that's fine. I don't know how many of you know this, but Trump is probably the only president that doesn't drink. I mean, maybe Reagan, I don't know. I'm not that good at American history, especially when it comes to politics. But you kind of, like, if you're president of the United fucking States, you're going to have a bottle of bourbon somewhere in your White House, probably. I mean, it's not like they're short days. It's not like you're out there playing golf in Scotland instead of running a... Oh, wait, never mind. Talk about inspiration. The guy is running one of the most powerful militaries in the world, or countries, or whatever. You could say he's running it, you could say he's not running it. But in the meantime, he's playing 18 in Scotland in a new golf course he just opened up. I mean, to me, in a way, in a dark humor way, that's very inspirational. Like, he's always got time for an 18. He's squeezing an 18 here. Yeah, I'm going to Britain. I'll talk to Keir Starmer. But on Sunday, I'm going to go golfing. At my new golf course. So, I guess Winston Churchill's, it's the courage to continue that counts. I wonder what his handicap is compared to Trump. Here's another one by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I don't even know who that is, but his quote's kind of cool. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Come on. If that's not inspiring, then, well, maybe there's some psychedelics out there that can help you with that. Tell you what, if none of this is inspiring, go back and listen to this show after eating, let's say, 8 grams of psilocybin mushrooms. Okay, wait 45 minutes and then press play on the repeat of this show. You'll be inspired, guaranteed. Yet another example of nature inspiring creativity and inspiration itself. It manifests itself through nature. Here's another one. I like this one because I'm a futurist. I like to think ahead. A lot of times a bit too optimistically. I'll admit that. I can be optimistic to a fault, almost to the point where it seems I'm gullible. But the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's by Peter Drucker. Don't know who he is either. But it's a pretty cool quote. Here's another one from Theodore Roosevelt. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Halfway only? If you believe you can, and you're only halfway there, then maybe you don't believe enough. I don't know. Just, if Theodore Roosevelt was sitting in front of me and he said that, that's what I would say. Here's one from William Butler Yeats. Do not wait to strike till the iron is hot, but make it hot by striking. That's kind of like Carpe Diem. Seize the day. Ain't nobody got time for waiting around. Nobody got time for that. When you see a chance, take it. You know, Steve Winwood. He's not on this list, apparently, because Grok doesn't know Steve Winwood. Instead, because I have an iPhone, Steve Jobs has the #1 quote for inspiration. Here's another one. Confucius said this. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. And Confucius didn't know how to use contractions. Because if he did, it would say it doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you don't stop. But you sound kind of more wise when you say do not instead of don't, or does not instead of doesn't. So there may be an example of using tonality and vernacular to influence the amount of inspiration one wishes to exert on another. Oh, and you know what? 2 quotes from Steve Jobs on my iPhone. This is amazing. I should ask the AI if it's biased towards iPhones, because it just gave me 2 out of 10 quotes from Steve Jobs. And it says this: your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Okay. Inspirational to some, probably. But to me, that's evidence of how much of a dickhead this guy was to his employees. He didn't care about other people's lives. That's what he just said right there. Your time is limited, so don't waste it on living someone else's life. Like, if you go to a Steve Jobs with a problem in your personal life, you're probably going to get fired. Or he's going to tell you, don't come to me with problems unless you have solutions for those problems. Now, I'm not saying that Steve Jobs is a bad guy, but what I am saying is he would use inspiration in a different way than most people, I would say. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Okay, I get that in a way. But when you know how he was to his employees, like if someone else said that, it would probably go over better, I'd say. Like, you can't live someone else's life. That's impossible. So it seems kind of like common sense. Now, how much of inspiration is rooted in common sense? I'd say at least half. 50% of all inspiration comes from common sense, and the other half comes from Mother Nature. But you need a consciousness to pull it out, to recognize it, to extract it, to implement it, to deploy it. Because inspiration can be deployed. It can also be weaponized. But it can be one of the most powerful defenses also. Like I said, opposites. They exist in inspiration as well. They exist in everything. So with that said, I'm not sure how much we've concluded here. I mean, I've definitely come to the conclusion that inspiration is going to be there long after I'm gone. But it might take another human, maybe genetically from a different generation than me, like maybe my great-grandkids, will be able to tune into the same inspiration that I tuned into, to just think freely. And when I hear people speak and it's inspirational, it encourages free thought for me. It inspires me to ask questions that may sound silly coming from a grown-ass man, when all it's really coming from is a childlike innocence. It's a legit question. And rather than writing off the question as childlike, embracing it as inspiration, to try to find the answer. So I hope that's inspirational. Another thing about inspiration is I don't think you can consciously try to be inspirational. I don't think the most inspirational people or speakers of the world, it's not like they went to school for it. They just are that. And it kind of goes back to what Chad Wright was saying. I dropped a clip in there. It's not him. It's what he calls the Holy Spirit coming through him to inspire you. Now, to me, if you substitute the word Holy Spirit for inspiration, that's perfectly acceptable to me. I can't even argue that. It's almost synonymous. In fact, I've concluded it must be synonymous. If all the inspirations in the world, in history, and in the future already exist, it's because the Creator put them there. Now, I still haven't answered the question, what inspired the Creator? But I don't think that's meant to be known. And so, as with a lot of other things, I'm okay with not knowing. The important thing is that I know its potential and its power, and I'm still learning how to use it. And I think everybody should be inspired to learn how to use it. And it's okay to be selfish when it comes to inspiration. the reason why it's okay to be selfish when it comes to inspiration is because it's individual. And yes, we are all one. But we're all one because we're all individuals that make up the one. That's by design. So hopefully that inspires you. Celebrate your individuality. Share it. But don't get too defensive about it. Instead, try to inspire people to understand why it is, like, why your beliefs are the way they are, or why what you created is there, or let it paint the picture for other people. I think inspiration is meant to be like a positive feedback loop. The more inspiration you put out there, the more people that get inspired, and then they inspire other people, and it's like a snowball positive feedback loop. And the same can be said in the other direction. It can also be a dark vortex. This is where cults and stuff come from. Or misinformation. Or laziness. Inspiration is the seeds of motivation and creativity. And those seeds have always been here, and we're born with them. And so with that said, what will I do now? I want to play another clip and then get back into some more tunes. And after that, I'll come back and, well, I guess we only have just over 20 minutes left now because I've been blabbing so long. Something inspired me. Here's another clip from, what did I say his name was? Oh, I can't even, something right. Anyways, you can find him. He's all over the internet right now. And he's a very religious man, but he's also a Navy SEAL. Guy's probably killed people. But his words are inspirational, and so here they are. It's the Polynation broadcast. About 20 minutes left. Be back after a bit. A few more tunes, a few more clips. And I'll see you in a bit. GroundZeroPlus.com.
As Jesus answers all of these people in such a masterful way, what it made me realize is that Jesus has been the only being in flesh to ever walk the earth who could see the entire Scripture completely, clearly, and perfectly. And that's why he was able to answer so well these people who are trying to trap him, who are experts, who are very religious. They're trying to trap him and trip him up on the Scriptures and make him contradict the Scriptures. I mean, that's what the Sadducees are trying to do here. They're trying to put Jesus in a position where he has to contradict the Scriptures. Right? But Jesus, because he had the full capacity of knowing the Word, right? He could see everything clearly, and because of the way he could see it for what it actually is, and what it actually is the entire collection of truth that is completely absent of contradiction.
But before you could ask, you lost all of your friends in the dark. The ending has a start. So nice, ordinary boy.
Alright? It's real easy. Look, I'm gonna be nice to the gays. I could be mean to them. I'm the one with all the power. I'm gonna be nice to them. I'm gonna give the gays a whole state to themselves. Alright? California. California is going to belong to the gays. Alright? Now they can all gather up over there, and we ain't gonna prop them up. But they can all gather up over there and they can do whatever they want to do. But you ain't gonna be allowed to be gay nowhere else around here, alright? California's your state. I'm giving you a whole state. So all y'all homosexuals, look, that can be y'all's paradise. Y'all go over there and do whatever you want to do. If you come out of there and come into another state, you're going to prison. Period. It's the easiest solution, man. Give them a whole state. That's how nice I am.
Polynesian Broadcast, GroundZeroPlus.com. Polynation Broadcast, GroundZeroPlus.com. I truly hope this show is inspirational. And if you lack inspiration, may I suggest looking at the sky. There are some very intriguing planetary alignments happening that could inadvertently cause inspiration. If you know what I'm saying. If you know, you know. And if you don't, well, Google it or something. ChatGPT that stuff. Anyways, I hope everybody has a good week. I'll see you next weekend. Polynation Broadcast, this is Polly signing off, wishing you a pleasant week ahead. I'll see you around, folks.
Hey, bully man, hey, bully man. Hey, bully man, you got named twice. Someone gonna catch you.